Hey, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society Podcast, reminding you that this podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the other great podcasts on the network at selfdefenseradio.net.
This episode of Unload and Show Clear is made possible by our patrons: Stuart Jepp, Bob Slaybaugh, Chris Irvin, Frank Scalise, and Jung Cho. Thank you so much for your support. To find out how you can support the show, visit unloadpodcast.com/patrons.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear. And now, here's your host, the slayer of non-threats, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, episode number 161. I am your host, Lloyd Bailey, the slayer of non-threats. This is a show about the men and women of IDPA. We talk gun culture without the politics. We introduce you to the men and women who grow this sport, who make it what it is, who volunteer their time, their money, their hard work to improve their skills, grow the sport, and put on local and sanctioned matches all over the country, all over the world every week. All right, last time we met in episode 160, the results of the South Mountain Showdown were still not posted. They are official now, so let's get to it. Let's go through them. The South Mountain Showdown was held at the Phoenix Rod and Gun Club January 16th, and all division champion trophies, all 6 of them, went to just 3 cities. Overall, the best time and the Carry Optics division champion went to Nils Jonasson from Phoenix. He claimed the Carry Optics crown, and Phoenix's Jason Steiber won the revolver division in a field of 9 wheel gun shooters. That was good to see. The 2 low cap division trophies went back to Fruita, Colorado, as Austin Prue won the CCP title, and his dad and former guest Walt won the CDP division. And the ESP and SSP crowns went to a pair of Gilbert, Arizona residents. Daniel Tyler won the crowded SSP division, and Kyle Schmidt won the ESP division. ESP master and former guest Kimiko Donahue from Tucson won the High Lady trophy. And you can check out my interview with Kimiko Donahue back in episode 152, and be sure to check out my interview with Walt Prue in episode 73, and check out his appearance on our live show, episode 158 as well. So congratulations to all the competitors, the staff, and match director and former guest, Eric Van Haster, for putting on another awesome match. All right, let's head across the country to another warm and sunny state, Florida, for the 2021 Florida State IDPA Championship at the Universal Shooting Academy in Frostproof, Florida, 2 weeks ago. I love the name of this place. Tulsa has the United States Shooting Academy, but Frostproof doesn't discriminate. Shooters from beyond the solar system are encouraged to come to touch down at nearby Port Canaveral, where I'm sure Paul Zima meets them on the tarmac and checks in their luggage so that they can drive the 2 hours to the Universal Shooting Academy in Frostproof and test their skills and enjoy the shooting sports. Anyway, enough of me being stupid. Let's get to the scores, shall we? The overall best time at the 2021 Florida State IDPA Championship and Carry Optics Division Champion was Luigi Lee from Davie, Florida. Second place went to former guest John Horvath from Hebron, Indiana. Ramiro Macias from Pike Road, Alabama, our guest from our last episode, won the CCP title, beating out another former guest, Jake Wedge, from Richland, Michigan. The CDP division winner was Jared Miller from Pensacola, Florida. Gorka Ibanez from Pompano Beach, a name you've heard us mention here a number of times, wins another ESP division title. Sean Upchurch from Princeton, Indiana, won the revolver division. And former guest Asa Durham from Pooler, Georgia, won the SSP division title. Hi Junior went to Chandler Schreider from Berlin, Maryland, and Hi Lady to Joyce Hernandez from Hialeah, Florida. Be sure to check out my interviews with Ramiro Macias from last episode 160. John Horvath was our guest back in episode 44, and Asa Durham visited with us in episode number 124, back when he was living in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Congratulations to the competitors, the staff, and match director Ryan Hand for putting on another great match. All right, it is time to meet this week's guest, and then we're going to wrap up with a look ahead to the remaining matches of February and what's to come in March. Our special guest was the Carry Optics Division champion at the Arctic Blast IDPA Championship back in January. Michael Fiori is our guest from Middletown, Delaware. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little about yourself. Tell us what you do for a living there in Middletown.
So I'm married. We have a son. He's about a year and a half old now at this point, so he's been keeping us busy.
Definitely.
My wife, it's me, my wife, my son, and we have one dog and a 10-year-old Doberman, so a large dog. So the house is full now. I'm actually a warehouse manager in north of Middletown in upstate Delaware in Newport. And I work for a company that's based out of Connecticut. So I run the show here in Delaware and kind of handle everything down here. And my wife's a physician assistant. She works south of here in Dover. So we're kind of centrally located. I go north, she goes south.
Gotcha. All right. Delaware native?
Pretty much. I was born in North Jersey, in a town, Kinnelon, New Jersey. So actually most of my family is still in North Jersey, New York, but all of my immediate family is here in Delaware. My dad got transferred here when I was in, I think, third grade. So pretty much my whole life I've lived here.
Gotcha. So growing up in what most of the rest of the country would consider sort of behind enemy lines when it comes to guns, how did you get in, where did the interest in guns come from?
So I kind of remember I went and bought a handgun when you could legally do it in Delaware. And I was like most people, I didn't get into competition shooting. I bought a handgun because I always had an interest in guns. I hunted when I was younger with, my dad and family. But I would kind of just go to the range once a year with the handgun and shoot it standing still and shoot it slow. And, that would be good. That would hold me over for the year and kind of do that every year. And it wasn't until, I believe it was 2017, maybe. I kind of came across a YouTube video. I can't remember if it was USPSA or IDPA, and it just looked really cool. So I hopped on the internet and looked up where was the closest place I could go shoot a match. And I found Bridgeville, Delaware, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away from me. They have just one of the best IDPA clubs, in my opinion, in the country. They run 6 matches a month, which is kind of unheard of. And they run them every Wednesday. They have one. And then the first and third Saturday. And it's $5 to shoot the match. Oh. So I tell everybody, I joke, I say for illegal or illegal, legal, doesn't matter. It's the most fun you can have for $5. So I kind of, I dove in head first. I was fully into it after my first match. And the cool thing was I actually brought my wife Dana with me at the same time. So we kind of both got into it. It was cool to have somebody, because I just showed up. So it was nice to have somebody that I knew at least. And we kind of both, wanted to learn firearm skills and just outside of standing at the range.
Right.
So,
So what was the first one you chose?
So I actually had a little extra money at the time that was burning a hole in my pocket. So I decided to get an H&K USP 45 compact that I thought I was going to carry on, apply for my permit. And I want to say it was like $1,000 handgun, which is just ridiculous for a young kid, to instead of, like a Glock or whatever most people get. So I just, Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I think I walked into the store and they saw dollar signs when I came through the door.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yep.
yeah. So you and your wife go to this IDPA match. What was your impression of your first IDPA match, your first local match?
Sure. So you've been around IDPA for a long time, obviously, so you know kind of the people you meet there, and the shooting sports in general, whether it's IDPA, USPA, or honestly some of the best people around that I've ever met. Willing to help, friends willing to loan gear so you could compete. So from day one, just showing up, not knowing anybody, just everybody was very welcoming to both me and Dana. And honestly, that might be, showing up to a range full of dudes with a girl probably helps a little bit, So they were probably more friendly to me showing up with her than they would have been on my own. But, everybody, Dana was obviously a little more nervous than me the first time. So kind of the SOs at the club were great in kind of saying, hey, be safe, have fun. Being safe is the most important thing today, Right. And we both kind of fell in love from there.
So both of you you both got to shoot?
Oh yeah. Yep. We both shot the first time. And then we pretty much for the next few months, we would kind of mark our calendars to be there every first and third Saturday. So we definitely became regulars, from the jump.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess, I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that you weren't shooting that USP.
Smart man. The USP has never made it into IDPA competition as of right now.
How?
I actually had a Glock 19 is what I started shooting with, and this was before I knew of CCP division or any of that. So I basically showed up with my Glock 19 and 2 or 3 magazines and cheap magazine pouches and a holster. And I shot it in, I believe, SSP. I would just kind of fill it up with 10 rounds and shoot the 19 in SSP.
Sure.
Yep. And I think Dana, I gave Dana a little harder road to travel. She was shooting basically what would be like a carry gun for her. It was a 9mm Shield, I believe.
Oh,
so yeah, a little bit snappy, pretty low round count.
Right.
But I think she actually shot that in CCP because she couldn't put 10 rounds in it for like SSP or ESP. So very, very soon. And that was one of the things where I didn't know, and everybody's being friendly, but they would kind of give me a hard time about getting her a different gun. So very shortly she had a different gun to shoot competition with.
How long after the USP purchase did it dawn on you that maybe this $1,000 gun wasn't the best choice for concealed carry?
Pretty quickly. Yeah. And actually, I don't think I ever carried it concealed, actually. And that was the whole, I kind of walked in there and they talked, the not knowing anything. They said, what do you want to do with this? You want to carry it? And I'm saying, sure. Everything they're saying, I'm saying yes to. So basically it pigeonholed me into this very, kind of singular purpose gun, a 45 that's small enough to carry that, I can't do anything with. So,
right.
Yeah. To kind of further answer your question though, one of my biggest regrets now that I've discovered the shooting sports was, like we said, I bought that first gun at 18 or 21, whatever it was, and kind of was just the yearly or, every 6 month go to the range and target shoot. But I didn't find competition shooting until, over a decade after that.
Right.
And I mean, you know how it goes. Once you kind of catch the bug, the earlier you get into it, the better you're off. Right. And so, yeah, I definitely wish I would have kind of pursued that further when I first, bought that first handgun and kind of was getting into that side of it.
So growing up, did you play sports? Were you competitive growing up and IDPA appealed to sort of the competitive side, or was it just you saw it on the videos on YouTube and thought, oh crud, this looks awesome running around. Here's guys running around with a gun shooting at targets. That looks cool.
Yep.
Or was it a little both?
A little both for sure. When I was younger, I played, every sport you could play from a young age. In high school, freshman year, I played football. I was going to go out for the baseball and basketball team, and I was trying to do everything. But my sophomore year, actually coming home from Thanksgiving with my brother, we got in a car accident. I kind of jacked up my back. So kind of like the football and wrestling was kind of out the window. So basically to stay kind of active in sports, I definitely got it big into like weightlifting with my buddies who played other sports, kind of in their off season. I would be doing that with them, play a lot of intramural sports. So yeah, definitely the competitive side. I've always been a competitive person, from that aspect. So that appealed to me. And then obviously, like you said, guys think guns are cool, and I'm no exception. So that looked awesome. And then from a practical side, as far as, carrying a handgun for protection of self and family, it seemed like a good idea that it would get me better, those kind of skills.
Right.
So I definitely say those three reasons all kind of played a part. It just wasn't one,
Right. Obviously, we don't get into the politics of guns on the show, but again, talking Delaware and concealed carry, some of our listeners may think, wow, those two things may not compute. How common is concealed carry in Delaware? How difficult is it to actually do that, to get a license to carry?
It's a really interesting question. Delaware is, obviously any Northeast state is kind of, for the most part, pretty strict gun laws.
Mm-hmm.
Delaware is not much different. They have kind of strict gun law. You can't have anything really too fun. You can't have any silencers. You need stamps to do anything as far as automatic gun, SBRs. But their concealed carry is actually, considering all their other laws, is pretty reasonable. I believe I had to go through a class. I think it was a 1 or 2 day kind of classroom setting.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had a very simple, of course, the competition guys, a very simple kind of quote unquote qualification class after that, kind of at a range.
Right.
And then you had to pay a small fee, and basically that would get almost like an article in the big like paper around here, kind of saying, this person is applying for his concealed carry permit. So you do that, and then you kind of wait to get it approved. And I think the whole process kind of took a few months. I'm sure it's longer now with kind of gun sales going up and more people applying. They published
your name in the paper as applying?
Yes, sir.
Really?
Yep.
Fascinating.
So yeah, I think it went out in probably like the Sunday paper, in the, I don't know, it was kind of its own section.
Was that just in case your neighbors want to complain?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a little weird, but kind of like you hinted at, being in Delaware, it's kind of, I think a lot of people in Delaware put up with that. It's a fair trade to still, have our right to be able to conceal carry,
Wow.
But yeah, it's definitely weird compared to other states.
Definitely. So getting back to IDPA, so you and the wife have a great time at your first local match. What happens next? How you get your wife a better gun, but what happens as far as local matches and practice and that sort of thing? You're now a master in multiple divisions, so give us sort of an idea of what changed from you from there, because you've in just a short period of time gone from showing up at your first match to becoming a multiple class master, or multiple division master. What changed? I mean, what's the practice routine like, and how long after that first match did you decide to try your hand at a sanction match?
Sure. So the first part would be, this sounds horrible, but definitely until recently, and like I said, we have a son who's 1.5 years, so there's been no practice, since that's happened. Finding time with that. But before that, honestly, I never really truly went to a range and practice. as I kind of like hinted at before, Bridgeville offering 6 matches a month. Obviously, I might not have been able to go to all 6, but that was a huge factor in shooting almost, probably 5 times more a month than the average person and getting to shoot a match, not just going to the range.
Mm-hmm.
I truly attribute me kind of progressing as fast as I have. And on top of that, kind of the core group of guys that Bridgeville has, between very knowledgeable SOs, guys who have been doing it for a long time, even the guys setting up stages. Bridgeville will have a Wednesday match where it's a 5-stage match, and probably, there's times where 3 of the stages will have multiple moving targets. I mean, you can go to, swingers, drop turners, you can go to level 2, 3, 4 matches, and you might not see that many, in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I definitely can't take all the credit. I do have to credit Bridgeville for allowing me to shoot so many matches for, like we said, a reasonable price at $5. And honestly, without making it sound bad, I really didn't practice, the first 2-3 years, until recently, like getting a membership at a range if I find time to go out now.
Right.
So that's kind of, to answer the first part of that, I think kind of will put me on the trajectory from learning so fast. And like I said, there's I don't even want to try to name names, all the guys that shoot there, because I'll leave somebody out. But when I was new, just, hey, Mike, try doing this. Do this when this happens, do this. Just kind of people, like we said, just the shooting community likes to help people. And I definitely experienced that a lot. And then the other part of that was, so I just shot all local matches at Bridgeville for that whole first year. And actually our first match was a week after the Delaware State match was hosted at Bridgeville. Mm-hmm. So we started shooting the week after that. I didn't know what happened the week prior. So I shot all local matches until the next year. I believe it was the 2018 Delaware State Championship was my first sanctioned, above a tier 1 match. And I had figured out enough to realize that Glock 19, to be competitive, I would have to shoot in CCP.
Right.
So I qualified. They ran. I qualified as a sharpshooter right before the match. So my first sanctioned match was the 2018 Delaware State Championship. I competed in CCP as a sharpshooter, and I think I won by, it was less than 3 seconds. A really great shooter who's local to there. I actually won first place in sharpshooter in CCP. So the first match I entered, basically.
Wow.
So I stuck. Yeah. So it was. It made it easier to keep wanting to get better when you get that kind of result, right? To kind of keep excited about it, and yeah. Yep.
So talk about that first sanctioned match experience. Now you had a year of shooting, what, 3, 4, sometimes 5 matches a month leading into your first sanctioned match. So you were well prepared. Was it an eye opener to go into that first sanctioned match? Were you, I mean, for a lot of people that we've talked to previously, they get to that first sanctioned match and it's such an eye opener because it's very different. You see lots of, the competition is so much greater because you've got people from so many different areas, and the stages are generally even better than what you're normally seeing at your local matches. What was your reaction? What was that day like for your first sanctioned match?
I was probably not as nervous as I should have been or would have been had it. Like I said, my only experience was shooting at Bridgeville. So it was pretty cool that my first sanctioned match was at, quote unquote, my home club.
Right.
So I think that took away a lot of the nerves. I think my squad was pretty much made up of all local guys I shot with all the time anyway.
So it kind of felt like a home club match.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not to take anything away from it, like you said, the stages you see, especially there, are, second to none. So it's not that it was kind of slouch stages. Definitely challenging stuff. I think I just probably didn't think about the pressure, put the pressure on myself. And a funny story, I believe I want to say it was at least like a 10-stage match. And I think it was the 9th stage of it, I had put on some aftermarket sights on my Glock 19, and my front sight loosened and was basically falling off on the 9th stage. So I shot it with a loose front sight, retightened it, and made it through the last stage of the match. So it wasn't uneventful or kind of a cakewalk. I definitely that one always sticks out.
Well, I think you certainly had a better time, an even better time of it this last month at the Arctic Blast. And now you said you've shot that match. Have you shot the Arctic Blast before?
I shot the Arctic Blast once before,
okay.
And it was not last year, the year before. I shot it, and it was actually true to Arctic Blast form. Snow on the ground, snowing when we were shooting it. Just a true matching the name, the Arctic Blast. So that experience, obviously last year with everything going on, didn't make me have a great desire to go back there and shoot in the snow and the miserable conditions again. So I was happy to take the year off last year.
But for some reason, you decided to brave it again this year. After a year of COVID and all the craziness, you decided to get back out there for the Arctic Blast, and you end up Carry Optics Division champion. Congratulations, by the way. Tell us about
Thank you.
That day and the conditions and the match itself and your performance, and just kind of walk us through that day and how it went.
Sure. I think part of the reason, talking about the weather conditions, I waited to almost the last minute to sign up for the match. And actually a good friend who used to shoot at Bridgeville, Howard Klein, was the stage designer. And I actually contacted him to talk to the match director to get in almost last minute. And the reason was I checked the weather and it was going to be somewhat normal for that area in the wintertime in January. So it seemed like, if there would be good footing where you wouldn't have to worry about slipping on ice or snow, I was definitely excited to shoot the match, and that kind of fell into line. So I kind of registered last minute. I drove up there last minute. As you said already, I was shooting Carry Optics, which I was already off of last year, as we hinted at, a weird year for shooting with COVID and, matches getting canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I think out of all the matches I was planning on shooting, only 3 of them still remained that weren't canceled from COVID.
Yep.
And so I shot the Delaware State USPSA Championship. And actually in that match, my optic was broken from stage 1. So I shot the whole day, the most frustrating day of shooting I've ever had, with a broken optic. So that match was a throwaway. And then the only other 2 matches that weren't canceled were the week after that and then the week after that. So I actually had to, I borrowed 2 different friends, different guns and different optics to just pick up and shoot a week before both the matches, the IDPA majors I shot last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So coming into this year, it kind of gave me a new perspective. And like we're saying, the snow isn't great, the cold isn't great, but I'm thinking about it and saying, you know what, my gun's working. I have ammo right now with everything weird going on. You know what, you should get your butt up there and go shoot it. So that's kind of what I did. And there was some great shooters up there. Like you said, the tier 2 plus always brings out kind of the best of the best in the area for the most part. And great competition. I think the stages were all either, very close up or kind of medium distance, which plays to kind of my strength is definitely movement type stuff.
Okay.
Kind of, speed. I can be accurate if I need to. So the ground conditions were great. The footing was great. The stages kind of played into what I like to shoot. So I kind of went in there pretty confident, thinking, you know what, as long as I don't have one of those big kind of mess up oofs on a stage, I might have a shot to do something pretty good. And,
as long as something doesn't go wrong with your sight.
Exactly. As long as the equipment holds up and I do my part and no big mistakes, I knew I would have a chance to do something, good in the match. And it turned out I did. I was able to, as you said, win the carry optics division. I actually won the high overall for the match, which was the first time I've ever done that in my career. So that was a very exciting thing to do. And yeah, just a great overall day.
Did you feel it as you were going through the day? Did it feel like, yeah, this is really going well, or did it just feel like another match?
No, I kind of realized it going through it, because I kind of before I shot the match, I wanted to be cognizant of that. Like we're saying, after last year and having matches where either the gun's not right. I had some injuries last year where it was holding me back. Leg injuries as far as like being explosive or movement type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was definitely kind of paying more attention than I would normally to kind of thinking about where I was at in the match. And there was actually a standard stage in the match, which was pretty challenging. And I found myself before that almost starting to work myself up, as we're saying before, with nerves and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, small mistakes, but I realized like thinking about putting the pressure wasn't going to help me. You just wind up, making more mistakes. So I was lucky enough to escape the stage with, 2 smaller mistakes, and then kind of get back to, just be aggressive, shoot your game. If you mess something up, you mess it up. It wasn't meant to be. So I kind of picked that attitude back up. And when I was shooting most of the stages, kind of to answer the question directly, they felt pretty good. Like I knew I was putting up good times. There would be a couple stages where I'd have small mistakes in the stage, as far as like a miss on steel or something small, drop a point here or there. But for the most part, I knew I wasn't making something big that was going to take me out of contention for, really making a run at the high overall.
Gotcha. What do you think in the 3.5 years that you've been doing this, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned, the one thing that has really made the biggest difference in your shooting, that you've improved on the most? Is it the mental aspect of the game? Is it some fundamental skill? What is it you think that has had the biggest impact in taking you from the sharpshooter 4 years ago to now master in multiple divisions?
I think there's probably been 2 or 3 very big like aha moments. I think from that sharpshooter to kind of like the middle of the expert field range, kind of what I hinted at before, all the guys who had been shooting before me kind of showing me tips, telling me, this works here, just, kind of being tutored along, definitely brought me up to that level. I think when you get to that expert level and you start knocking on like the master level door, it turns into more definitely what you hinted at. The mental game is big, without, product promoting, or I read a book off somebody else's recommendation. I think many people probably already know about it, but Larry Basham's book.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't even need to say the title. Everybody knows it. So that definitely helped me with the mental side. And from that book, a lot of visualization, especially before shooting the actual stage, kind of like a USPSA style. If anybody shoots that as well, a lot of the shooters will go through in their head, kind of, they're going through the stage in their head before they actually shoot it.
Yep.
And that's definitely gotten me heat in the IDPA world when I started doing it. But I saw great kind of success from doing that as far as the mental side.
As long as you're outside the stage boundary, you're good. Just
yeah. And it's not even air gunning. It's kind of like at the load and make ready, just taking 10 seconds to just go through the stage quickly in your head, nothing against the rules. I think you have 30 seconds or so, whatever it is. But that definitely helped me with the mental side.
For most new shooters, the mental game is the biggest challenge. They may have tons of physical skill, but putting the mental part together, because you get the buzzer brain thing.
Sure.
And I remember, like I went back and I saw a video of like for my first IDPA match back in North Carolina years ago, and it just looks like an absolute dumpster fire because there is no mental game whatsoever. It's just, I don't know what I was doing, to be honest. And I'm pretty sure I had no idea at the time. And there, like you said, at some point there's a light bulb moment where somebody clues you in, and it, for me, like you, it was the Lanny Basham book. Taking that time to visualize the stages and figuring out game plans that you had when you first start out, you have absolutely no idea how to do any of that stuff.
Exactly. And kind of to further that, it's almost like there's the visualization and there's getting comfortable and getting yourself in the zone and not thinking about, what the other guys are joking about, or, just thinking about the shooting. And I think there is a value to that. That's kind of overlooked. To obviously it's brought up in the book. And then as far as the other big aha, kind of what got me to the next step, and honestly, it might have even been after I had made master in my first division in ESP. I can't remember. I think it was, but I kind of said how I really don't have time or haven't. It's unfortunate. I love to, but to have actual physical practice where I go out to the range and run drills and that kind of thing.
Right.
But what I started to do was somebody put me on to Steve Anderson's book, his Dry Fire.
Yep.
And actually, a friend of mine at Bridgeville kind of was just exceptionally nice enough he had, bought his books and wasn't really into it, had moved on to some other dry fire kind of routine, and said, hey, you know what, you take them, see if they help you. If not, pass them on to somebody else. And I took them home, and I think it's refinement and repetition, whatever, his big book is. I've really found a lot of value in dry firing, kind of like the first 15 drills or whatever it is in that book. And I think anybody, I've told this to people, I don't care if you're marksman, sharpshooter, even master, I think if anybody kind of religiously took, 10 of those first 15 drills and did those, let's say, even once or twice a week, I think in a month, everybody's going to see an improvement in their game, from the gun handling to just, it transfers to everything. Yep. And I'd say that was the second biggest kind of aha moment, kind of realizing the way to get my physical skill better, but also kind of seeing like you have to put a little bit more in than, when you're at the master level, you have to put a little bit more in than just showing up to the range and shooting the match. Like people are going to catch you. You're not going to you're probably going to plateau,
right.
You kind of, at that point, there's you get out what you put in type of deal. So it's kind of, what's your level of involvement? I believe Steve Anderson says, what do you kind of want to get out of it?
Right. The level of commitment. Yes.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Again, you've sort of alluded to, I suspect I know where this answer is going to go, but I always like to finish with it anyway. It's, what is it about IDPA that is special to you? I know it's the first one you found. I know you shoot other sports, despite shooting with your optic not working. What is it about IDPA that you love, and what keeps you coming back?
Okay, so I'm sure the answer you hear all the time is, of course, the matches are great. The people are awesome, which is completely true. They're a friendly bunch, IDPA, compared to other things you might encounter. But as far as the kind of the details of why I like IDPA, I like that it's accuracy driven. Mm-hmm. So I think the challenging thing for me is you have to try to push the speed enough where you're kind of into like the USPSA level, where it's kind of pretty much about your speed. Where IDPA, you have to find that balance of pushing the speed enough to where the wheels aren't falling off, but also maintaining a pretty high level of accuracy. And it's valued a lot more as far as the overall score. You can't shoot fast enough. You can't miss fast enough in IDPA.
Right.
And I think especially when you start going, like we were talking about, the sanctioned matches, tier 2, 3, 4 matches, and the competition is that much tougher, you really even have to figure out that balance a lot more. And I think it changes from match to match. And I think it's hard to kind of, it's a challenge to kind of keep changing where that's at. And I think that keeps me very much interested in it. As far as just the general competition and camaraderie, the obvious things.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Michael Fiori, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciate it, and good luck with the rest of 2021, and hope to get a chance to meet you on the range down the road.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on. It was an honor to do it.
All right, that's about all the time we've got. Before we go, here's what's coming up. This weekend, it is the 2021 Chesapeake Cup in Lexington Park, Maryland, followed by the Castle Pistol Club 2021 Indoor Winter Classic from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Hopefully, we'll be reviewing one or both of those matches in our next episode number 162. February wraps up with the South Florida Defensive Challenge in Homestead, Florida on the 19th and 20th, which looks like a lot of fun. Then we'll move west for the Gulf Coast Championship in South Texas on March 6th at the ranch in Eagle Lake, Texas. It's a 12-stage Tier 4 match. It's also a charity match with proceeds going to Homes for Our Troops. There's still close to 100 openings, folks, so if you want to shoot a fun match, be sure to sign up today. I will include a link in the show notes below. The Coastal Carolina Challenge / North Carolina State IDPA Championship is going to be in Bolivia, North Carolina at the end of March 26th and 27th. That's a Tier 3 11-stage match. The match is almost full, so if you're in the North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia area, you want to register for that one, get in there quick. I think there's less than 5 slots available. Again, look for a link to that match in the show notes. That same weekend, on March 27th, the Texas Femme Fatale Ladies Only match is going to be at my home range in Whitewright, Texas. Ladies, this sounds like it's going to be an awesome match. Be sure to check out the roundtable, the last 30 minutes of our live show on episode 158 if you'd like to hear more about the match. We talked to match director Memory Lawrence and Chris Schmid and Mandy Bachman, and we talk a lot about the idea behind these ladies-only matches. Last year's Southern Belle IDPA Championship, which is coming back this year, and you get a little preview, a brief preview that she doesn't give away. Memory doesn't give away a lot of secrets, but you do get a little brief preview of this year's Femme Fatale. There are about 50 slots left if you're interested in shooting that match. It's at the end of March 27th, so check it out. Sign up today. Again, look for a link in the show notes. I plan to be there to cover the match, and with any luck, episode 165 will be about that match with videos and some cool stuff to follow. So again, look for a link in the show notes if you would like to register for that match. All right. Again, thank you to our guest for joining us today. Thank you for listening. Tune in again in 2 weeks for another episode of Unload and Show Clear. I'll talk to you then.